Gents, y'all sleep on getting rejected, eh? Getting rejected, but that thing gonna change your life in a positive way. Getting rejected, man, y'all need to get more of that done. Stop being afraid of it. Stop running away from it. Go out there and get rejected, y'all, and take that to the chin. Okay, don't get rejected and try save it. Just get rejected and be like, hell yeah, move on with your life. Caveat: ask why though. Damn, why is getting rejected cool? It's because it's an opportunity for y'all to learn. Opportunity for y'all to learn a whole lot about yourself. Okay, I'll tell y'all a story. Okay, so bada bing, bada boom. Okay, this was, let's say, in the recent past. Okay, I was talking to a girl, right? Things was kind of going in a good direction until they weren't. She hit me up with the message. I'm gonna paraphrase, in essence, saying that she doesn't feel like it's gonna work. Okay, so I'm like, okay, nah, cool. Thanks for letting me know in good time and all of that. Can I ask why though? Just purely out of curiosity. She's like, well, she's looking for someone that is goals orientated, business minded, someone that she can study with, someone she can, be active with, be fit with, someone that you can go out and outdoor adventures with, someone that can be your best friend, someone that can just be her person, like no jokes, just serious relationships, right? And I think that the no jokes part was more literal than it was figurative. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. What makes you feel like I don't embody these things, right? And she's like, it's not that she feels like I don't embody any of these things. And she's like, in fact, I probably do. It's just that the way that I speak, the way that I carry myself, my cadence, XYZ is reminiscent to her of like her little brother, right? And that's when a light bulb switch hit, okay? Which I guess really, it's okay. I'm gonna call it rejection because it kind of still elicits feelings of rejection. Now, the reason why I say this is cool is because when she said all of that, boom, something flicked on in my head, right? Something flicked on that was akin to a conversation that I've been having with myself, a back and forth I've been having with myself. And this conversation was around loneliness, okay? And I'm not talking about loneliness like a homeless guy by himself under the bridge. I'm talking about that loneliness that is immediately followed by imposter syndrome, because you are the type of person that does seem to have his stuff figured out on a very surface level. So what do you mean feeling lonely? You've got a lot of people around you that all love, care, that you look like you love and care for too. You wouldn't be wrong to assume that if you're talking about me, okay? I'm talking more so to like the loneliness that you feel in that sphere of romantic relationships, okay? Still a pillar that matters to people, okay? If it's not checked, it's not checked, and everyone knows that within themselves that it's not checked, all right? And I feel like this feeling would be less of a feeling if I struggled to just get girls point blank period, okay? But it's kind of that weird disappointment that you don't know where to direct that you have, where let's say you're like an extremely tall person and you could afford all the pairs of shoes that you wanted, but you went into the mall with intent to buy shoes, but you couldn't find shoes because you couldn't find the shoes that was your size, right? There's a weird feeling that you get there, as opposed to someone who goes into a mall who wants a pair of shoes that probably will find shoes in their size but just can't afford shoes. Does that analogy make sense? Listen, it does. I'm sick with analogies, all right? So that's kind of that imposter syndrome that you kind of get from the type of loneliness that I'm talking about, right? Is because when a girl told me what she told me, it kind of hit me, right? And this is a trait that I've been knowing about myself that I do possess, this one of being childlike. Very different from being childish, okay? I feel like I'm self-aware enough and I can give myself enough props to say that I'm not childish, but I'm very childlike, right? And the reason why I am like this is purely because this stems from to me, what is currently my number one and most important character trait, which is my ability to absorb information, okay? And I do that to the degree of a child, right? Because we all know is like the different types of human beings that exist. Children are the best at absorbing information because everything is absorbed through a non-biased lens. It's just a lens that is on log. It's set on camera log. It doesn't take in any color. It just takes in details. Okay. I told you I'm nasty with these analogies, y'all. These analogies that I be hitting y'all with. Hey, listen, I'll be dropping them for the free ski. All you got to do is like and subscribe, y'all. That's my payment. That's my little form of payment. That's what you can do for me, okay? And I promise, I guarantee you, more sick analogies will coming out the wazoo. That's just kind of how these kids be absorbing information. These little boppers, right? And I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I can remember how I used to think way back. I'm talking about how I used to think, not what I used to think about, but how I used to think when I was like, I'm talking before even the age of 10, before I was even doing double digits on them mouth. You know what I mean? And one thing that I remember is my very non-biased lens from absorbing information, okay? The only prerequisite was there needed to be information for me to absorb, right? And the other thing with me, right, is that I don't know, if I'm going to hold on to something, right, I'm usually going to want to see it at its full extremes for me to consider whether or not it makes sense, right? So when I say the extremes of this particular character trait, I mean that it permeates throughout my entire life. So it's not even just how I absorb information, but then also how I put out information, i.e. how I imagine, how I think, how I interpret, and then how I explain my thoughts, right? Sure, I probably do use a lot of words that is more reminiscent of someone that's been through school, blase, but more so on the things that I choose to comment on are usually things that people either just don't speak about or things that people don't notice, right? And a large portion of the reason why people don't speak about a lot of the things that I tend to bring up is because they go by unnoticed, and they go by unnoticed because all of these lenses that you pick up through life, that you then put things through, that at the end of the day always have it that probably by lens one, which is the one that interacts with raw information, you're already filtering out 90% of whatever that information is, and only end up absorbing what is always going to be directly relevant to you, right? Whereas with me, I always try to make sure that I don't have those types of filters in my life, because I also want the information that is contradictory to what I believe, okay? One thing y'all should know about my viewpoints and my beliefs and stuff is my beliefs, they don't sit in a pool in my brain where things go in that pool to sit in there forever. No, that pool is more like a thunderdome, okay? It's an arena that is constantly in motion, right? There's battles of the ideals happening in that arena, and the strongest man wins, okay? The weak one gets replaced. That's how it is, okay? This is even as far as like my beliefs are concerned, okay? If you can come to me with a more reasonable belief to one that I already have, I'll take the previous one out. And it's not even on some grifting type of thing. It's just on some, okay, this one makes more sense, you know what I mean? Whereas a lot of people, they kind of have a very dogmatic hold onto their beliefs, right? And I don't, because if I do that, again, it's one of those lenses where I'm going to be shutting out certain types of information that might contradict with those beliefs, you know. And then what does that mean? I end up losing out on information, okay? I don't want to lose out on information, okay? Which is something that, again, harkens back to this very childlike approach to life, because what information is a child being biased towards when they don't really have, let's say, even a belief system built up as far as they're concerned, like from their core, not like the belief system that is presented to them by way of what they're around, but like from their core. They don't really have that belief system. And I like to function, let's say, in a world of make-believe, where I simultaneously do have beliefs and values and all stuff of that nature, but I approach every other piece of information as if I also don't. Does that make sense? Yes, it does. So it is because then of this particular trait that I usually find it very difficult to fully gel with certain types of women, okay? And I want y'all to really focus on that word, certain types of women, because it makes it sound like I'm talking about a few. No, this is that. I don't even think I'd be wrong to say that this is most women, okay? Because especially in this day and age, right, women are more so focused on the 1 + 1 = 2 aspects of life, you know, the very literal, the very on the not surface level, on the physical plane of existence aspects of life, right? I'm talking about being goals and career driven, always wanting to do things that equals something else, which I guess is cause and effect, and you don't really have control of that. But y'all get what I mean, right? They want to do something that equals something of real life substance, and as a result, especially the older that we all get, right? And this is not just women, but all of us. But obviously, I'm speaking in the context of women because romantic relationship lens that we're having this whole conversation through. Boom. So I'm gonna just drop that thought because I don't know where I even was. Kind of just lost my train of thought there, right? So yes, the older you get, right? The older we all get, it kind of becomes more important for us to start worrying about things like, okay, cool, I'm doing XYZ. How is this going to contribute to me being able to survive in the future, right? And I guess going years back, the solution was always just for women attach themselves to somebody who looked like or had the machinations of someone that can figure it out, and that was usually your best bet. But now that there's so many other avenues for women in particular to make something out of life that they can be happy with as far as surviving is concerned, they're obviously focusing a lot more on these types of things. And this is just a thing. It's not a good thing, it's not a bad thing, it's just a thing. This is just what is the case. But in my scenario, I think it is also because of this that I find it more difficult to fully gel with women, because as much as, yes, I am also this type of a person who is very goals driven, honestly, I feel like in most of the circles that I get around, I'm probably the most goal driven person. I'm going to tell you all that for the free ski, okay? To the point where it gets annoying. Like, you're not around someone that's really, really actually about their goals when it's like, damn, bro, this dude is so overbearing with these damn dreams and wishes and everything, right? That is me as well. So I get that trait, right? I am that trait. But on the exact same capacity, I am also the other trait where I want to just interact with the parts of life that seemingly don't really have a real reason for us to interact with. I'm talking about damn near just always having your head in the clouds, purely for the sake of balance, if anything, and I say this, and the best way that I can present this way of thinking to y'all is how I don't take life seriously, okay? Me not taking life seriously doesn't mean that I don't have a reverence for life. It doesn't mean that I don't have a respect for life. This doesn't mean that I don't have an appreciation for life. This doesn't mean that I don't have a passion for life, right? I can have all of these things independent of taking life seriously. The same way that everyone has a favorite movie, right? We all have favorite movies, boom. But you don't take those movies seriously, Once the movie ends, you appreciate it for what it was, and you go and watch the next movie, right? The exact same feelings you have about your favorite movies, this is the same way that I feel about just life in general, right? Maybe the only thing that I do take seriously is God, right? So, boom, because now of this trait, right, of me always wanting to put things in the oven to see how they cook, everything, right? It kind of maybe presents this type of chaos that a lot of people are not comfortable with. I'm also not comfortable with it at times, but it is the type of chaos that I kind of enjoy stewing in from time to time, because again, it's always a different perspective that I'm getting out of that. And if honestly, I feel like there is no one right answer to life, but the right answer is as many answers as possible, right? And that's kind of what I'm out here trying to do, is gather as many answers to everything as possible. And for me, that's just also fun. It's not even like I do it purely for utilitarian reasons. It's just fun. And I think that is the part of my being that a lot of women can't gel with. And we got to get a little controversial. You already know what time it is when we come in here. Get a little controversial is what you pay for, right? And I feel like this is why I can't gel with most black women. Boom. There you go. Now I'm also speaking to other, let's say, black dudes, because this is more so like a black community thing. Like other races don't really put too much stock into this as much as black people do, but I've seen it everywhere on the interwebs, right? Damn near every black dude that gets a little milked up.
You don't need that milk. We got a lot of milk.
Right? Getting berated by the black community, right? So I want to say what I want to say, and like, hey, black woman, don't be too hard on them dudes, okay? It's more so that they're just a victim of circumstance, and they just don't have the right words to explain why it even is that it is the case, but it just is the case, right? Y'all can get hard with me, honestly. Don't matter. It's kind of my final verdict on those types of interactions that I have. But you can get hard with me, and I will take everything that he said into consideration, but it also doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? So the reason now why I say this is probably why I can't mix well with most black women, right? And I want to even say that most black women in South Africa, but like just from what I've seen, this is more of a global thing in general, because I think most black people kind of went through a similar path in history, right? Given that at the end of the day, there's still aspects of life that we have to figure out that are, let's say, more lower down on like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, as opposed to other races, mainly white people, right? Is that white people have kind of had that head start where they don't have to, they come out the jump not having to worry about things like finances a lot of the time, right? Whereas opposed to us, it's only recently, I would even say like my generation, where we kind of popped onto the scene, where we didn't also have to immediately start worrying about finances, right? And when I say this about black people, this is not even all of us. This is a very few, small number of us, right? Percentage wise, right? And for those of us that it is the case for, we also still do have parents who came from a life where they did have to worry about those things. So these are the types of lessons that we get taught. And that's why perhaps maybe you were born into a family where you traditionally didn't have to worry about money the same way a lot of people that actually struggle with money have to worry, but you still do come with those tendencies overriding perhaps what your experiences are. You know, you grow up in very mixed schools, for examples, right? You get exposed to all sorts of different cultures, and really everything around you is kind of a melting pot for you to pick and choose who you want to be. But then you've also got this very huge influence, which is back home, of how they used to think back in the days. And that's why I think then also, despite the fact that this isn't the case for, let's say, the type of black people that don't have to worry about finances, why they end up being the type of people that still put a lot of stock into the financial realm of living. Okay, I think this is why. And then as a result, the types of things that you end up putting stock into when it comes to relationships, right, is a lot to do with that aspect of living, which is stuff like finances. And then comes back to the whole goals thing. What is your plan in life? Where are we going? Where are we going to be seen? What type of work do you do? What type of job do you, what do you spend your time doing in your free time, right? And all of these things are the types of questions that would have me realizing that for most of the time, in fact, for me specifically, I don't think I've dated a black girl where these things didn't matter to the extent where it took up 100% of the real estate of that person's being. This has kind of just been my experience, right? And then, yeah, this kind of just been my experience.